All right, guys, how's it going? I kind of want to talk about my community post. May Muses brought this up in one of her own community posts, and she posed a question: which do you think has been more dangerous, has been more destructive in the United States? And it's like a multi-choice. The four choices she gave were processed food, social media, drugs, or tribalism, and all four of those. To me, the way I think, which is the baseline for destruction, and to me, it would be tribalism. Tribalism would be the base of the pyramid, or you would think of it as a tree, like a family tree in a sense, or like a chart where tribalism's at the top and the roots kind of go down into these other categories like processed food, social media, drugs, etc. All the destruction, right? To me, tribalism stems. To me, all of these other labels and categories stem from tribalism. And what I mean by tribalism is, like the blood family unit. I talk about that a lot on my channel because I think it's a very big deal. It's a big deal to the point where I think it's like a not milk trick, like Matt likes to call it, the dark entity or the dark reality, the invisible hand, Satan, Lucifer. There's a lot of names for it, right? But I like to just call it whatever. It don't matter. It's a not milk is a mighty fine word. Clinton spelled backwards. Just a creepy entity that's got us all hypnotized and tricked into thinking that things matter, certain things matter. God damn, they're speeding through here. I fucking hate being on this road. But to me, tribalism would be at the top. Number one trick is the individual being convinced that their blood family matters or their family tree matters, like their blood relation. Anybody who's been a subscriber for more than a few months should know where I'm coming from. And tribalism can include blood family, race, culture, even country, religion, all of that. To me, that's all tribalism. It's all one and the same. Anything that robs the individual of free thought, or at least free agency. I'm not going to say free will because I don't believe in free will. But I do believe in the thing as free agency, which is the choices we can make. And the reason I call it free agency and not free will is because we're always being influenced by the specters, like the trauma of our past. We're always being influenced by what we've been taught, the language we speak, the country we're raised in, the culture we're around, perhaps even the race we've been told to identify as. We're always going to be controlled by that, no matter what. Even for someone like me who is awake, quote unquote, right? A lot of y'all that are listening fall into this category as well, where I would consider y'all free thinkers. Like, you all have free agency. But at least free agency to the degree of you're aware of the trick. And Matt likes to talk about the trick, right? Getting past the trick, seeing past the veil. But to me, it's like the ultimate trick is this blood relation, this blood family relation dynamic, the mother and father, your mother and father. So to me, tribalism is everything on my channel, not everything, but most of what I speak about on my channel is about this tribalism aspect of separating yourself from your tribe because you're a free agent. Like I said, even the females, and I'm not just talking about men and women are free agents. But at the same time, to a degree, they're not free agents because once you see through the veil, once you see past the trick, and I'm just going to say you forgive your parents, you forgive your mother, right, for traumatizing you. You forgive all the adults in your life who traumatized you, and you realize that every single decision in your life has been under the assumption of this trauma that you've gone through. And every single one of you gone through this. There's no exceptions. None. Zero. If you're a human being raised on this planet, then you're going through what I'm talking about. All right? Just bottom line. There's really no arguing. Like, I've seen people try to argue with me about it, and they don't make a good case at all. Maybe one of these days I'll go over that. But every single one of you is being controlled by some invisible hand. And like I said, some call it dark reality, some call it not milk, call it Lucifer. I think it's this trauma we've been through. The spirit that takes over us the moment we're traumatized at a very, very, very early age. As soon as we're spit out of the womb, we're traumatized. And that's when you begin being manipulated with words, through the English language. And when I say English language, I don't just mean specifically the English language. I am talking about language at all, period, no matter what culture. It doesn't even have to be Latin-based language. It can be any language, Korean, Japanese, blah, 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 Thai. It doesn't matter. Anytime, as soon as you're taught words, your mind is being squeezed and the bottleneck is placed. Because before you learn language, you're the closest to God. Because you don't have anything, you don't have a limiter on your mind yet. And to me, language is the ultimate limiter. This is why I'm making the claim that every single human being in this world is being controlled by their culture and by their language and by their race. They're convinced about how their skin tone matters or their race matters, even the non-whites and whites alike. And it's really sad that we're having to categorize people as non-white or white, because it's like there's so many. Let's just for language sake, right? For communication's sake, the non-whites, for the most part, not all, the majority of non-whites, quote unquote, consider themselves non-white, and they think that whites are, for all intents and purposes, just for argument's sake, let's say superior. And they really truly think like this. They won't say it out loud, but that's what their actions imply, because all of this social justice nonsense and the race relations movement back in the 70s and 60s, they were asking whites for freedom, quote unquote. And to me, if you truly think that whites aren't some kind of master race, then why go through these shenanigans of attempting to free yourself, quote unquote? And like I said, like I've said before, it's like this race thing is ridiculous to me. You're asking the controllers for your freedom. It's like, then what? I mean, which one is it? Are you acknowledging some kind of weird superiority? Like, is that what's going on? To me, that's what it sounds like it's going on. Just the word, the phrase in itself, white supremacy, implies that you're lower than, which is retarded. It's ridiculous, right? I don't really think there's, like the media tries to make it seem like there's all these white racists out in the world just keeping the blacks down or keeping the Mexicans down or whatever they think they're doing. And they do a very good job of keeping themselves down, to be honest. And it's like, I don't believe any of that crap. I don't fall for that crap, okay? Period. And I have to reemphasize, I'm a little Latino boy. And I'm saying these things. Not that it matters. Like, it should be able to come out of the mouth of a white boy or a white woman and matter and have just as much impact. And I'm not saying I have any kind of impact or anything like that, because a lot of people consider me white, even though I was raised in a very Hispanic Catholic house around all of these Spanish speakers and all the the people that mow lawns and they get drunk every night and all that nonsense. Crosses on the wall. I don't think I've ever seen a Mexican flag, but interesting thing about South Texans is that they're very patriotic. Like, they love the United States for the most part, right? I'm sure there's exceptions to the rules, but South Texans are very, very patriotic. They love their country. They love the United States. They're hyper aware that, thank goodness, they're hyper aware that if it weren't for them being in the United States, they wouldn't probably make it at all. If they were stuck in Mexico, it would be just a hellhole, essentially. But anyway, to get back on topic, the tribalism thing, and a lot of y'all might be thinking, like, what's my end game? What's my end game? Why do I talk about these things? I talk about these things because no one else is talking about it. And it really, really matters. Like, this tribalism shit and this race shit, this culture shit. Especially if you're, like, I've talked about myself, like, being raised in the Latino culture, that South Texas culture, where I got a family telling me, trying to convince me that it matters. When I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not in Mexico, I'm in the United States and I'm speaking English. Why does it matter to me? And it only really matters to the degree where I get some perspective of where I came from and where my parents and grandparents and great grandparents came from. And that's to the degree it's important. It's important to that degree and nothing else. It kind of stops there. It's like, well, I'm an American, and even then I'm breaking away from that label a little bit. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge the country I'm in, because there's a reason, for the things happening the way they did. So my end game for my audience, my takeaway, the big takeaway for my channel, and it didn't start this way, right? I used to talk about it started off as an esoteric kind of channel where I talk about synchronicities and stuff, and I kind of broke away from that when I realized that I could have a voice on YouTube. You know, I could actually reach people on YouTube, not just in person. When I started having conversations with people, I realized, you know, this is the stuff I want people to talk about on YouTube. Not everyone, right? Because we got to have some variety. But other than, you know, Jesse Peterson kind of talks about stuff like this, but he doesn't word it the way I would word it. Which is, I was like, you know what? Thinking to myself, right? You know, people, this is the way people are. I'm a person, so it's like you hear somebody on the radio and you think to yourself, you know what? I could say it better, or I could say it this way, or I have my story. I want to tell my story, and this is my way of doing it. I don't need to be on, let's say, for instance, Jesse's network or anything like that, or I don't need to call into a show. I have my own platform right here, and it's unfortunate I have to use YouTube because they're not on the up and up. You know, they could take down my shit in the blinking of an eye, and it's unfortunate. So my end game, to get back to what is the point of Post Nostalgos? You know, the channel. You know, you can call me Post Nostalgos too. That's fine. I don't mind going by that name. You can call me Post, call me Rudy, whatever. But Post Nostalgos, you know, getting over your nostalgia, getting past nostalgia. That's what that phrase means. And I actually had a list of things that I wanted to call myself. There's a list of names I wanted to call my channel. That they all had to do with nostalgia, because to me it was about, when I woke up, it was about breaking away from the nostalgia, but at the same time, what's going on with my car? But at the same time, acknowledging that it's okay to have a little nostalgia, to remember our past, to remember where we came from, and to have context and have perspective of where we came from. This is why I want y'all to dig into your family tree just a little bit. You know, if you got a cousin or uncles or aunts that are still alive, or your mother and father or your grandfather still alive, you have a very, very unique opportunity to talk to them and learn about your family history a little bit. Not just the history, not about the genealogy. I'm not really necessarily talking about genealogy. I am talking about the dynamics between parents, between husband and wife, mother and father, and children. This is what I'm speaking of. What's going on with my car? Oh, I have it. Whoops. All right, problem solved. Good. So this is what I want people to understand about why I talk about these things. And this is why I put tribalism on the top, as in the number one problem, the number one not milk Lucifer trick is this tribalism, because it keeps people from being individuals. It keeps people from being free thinkers, being free agents, and it separates, number one, and the number one reason is that it separates people from God. It's just like the moment you have anger for your parents, the moment you have enmity with your mother, is the moment that you're severed from God's light. You're on a different frequency. You're tuned to a different frequency. Let's put it that way. And my channel is really all about wanting people to see past the trick. And I think that's all I got to say, guys. I just wanted to speak about this tribalism thing a little bit, because this isn't the first time I brought it up in a community post. And looking back on it, I kind of realized I hadn't really talked about tribalism, the specific word tribalism, too much. I just wanted to make it more clear of what I define as tribalism compared to other people. And just to reemphasize, to me, tribalism means any of these categories of race, skin tone, country, religion, you know, all of those ideologies. Ideology in itself could be considered tribalism. You know, this liberalism and conservative stuff can be considered tribalism. Anything that's designed to divide. I think that's it, guys. Y'all have a nice night. Bye-bye.